Hi, bud. Sure wish I could be there at the shindig, see your family and a bunch of old friends. Babe and I are pushing 84 now, and I'm pretty well banged up, so we don't get off the rock too often, and especially flying. But I wanted to try to do something to maybe say hi and how everything goes. And first off, I want to compliment you on your retirement. Lord knows I yapped at you long enough to do it, and congratulate Rob for taking over. Haven't met the man, but on the phone seems like a really nice guy. And for the third owner of Chenoa Pharmacy in 54 years, I think, and the fourth owner of a drugstore in Chenoa for 126 years. So that's kind of neat. Um, when I bought the store in '61 in November, first thing I did was change the name to Chenoa Pharmacy and make signs and things. And the second thing was hire you. And you were 16, and you kind of thought maybe you wanted to be a pharmacist. And I told you, well, if you go to school and get your BS and your degree and come back and run the store for me till my oldest girl got out of college, that I'd turn it over. I Pharmacy bothered me for a couple of reasons. One, it had tied up my time. I couldn't hunt and fish as much. And also, you'd feel bad walking out and telling some mother that the medicine for her child was $20, which back in the early 60s, that was a lot of money. And they didn't have copay and all the rest of the stuff. But anyway, it's you got the store and got you hired and moved, talked to the doctors, and they said they'd write for us. We'd come to town to the wholesale house had brought me over. I was looking for a store, and they brought me over to supposedly look at another drug store there in town, which wasn't a drug store. His daughter was a nurse at the hospital, and she took the prescriptions to the hospital and had them filled, and then brought them back, and it was like a lunch counter deal. But anyway, I looked across the street, and there was a real neat building looking that said Sherman's. And I asked him what that was, and of course we were all decked out in our suits and ties and everything. And so we went over there to get a soda pop and walked in, and it was just like going into a different century with the high steel ceilings and all the ice cream tables and the ice cream chairs, and they had a soda fountain in there that marble top, and they had a huge carbonation vase, which I'd never seen anything like. It was about 30 inches high, and in fact it ended up Herman's son was an admiral, and he donated it to I'll think of it in a minute. What is it called where everything goes, the good stuff goes? Anyway, Shorty Winterland was in there, and Shorty he stuttered something terrible, and especially when he got flustered. Well, we walked in our suits and asked him a couple of questions, and he was 5 minutes before he could give us an answer. But anyway, he told us who owned it, and Miss Emma was the matriarch, and she was she'd never been married, and her sister Kate had a problem, and she was the one that was married to Herman Foltz, and Herman was designated a pharmacy. The state came by, and if there wasn't a pharmacy in so many miles, they said, you want to be a pharmacist? Well, you are one. But so anyway, when we bought the store, they were averaging 7 scripts a week. And when I left and Danny took over, we were doing over 400 a week, which wasn't too shabby for a little country store. And I'm sure Danny's been able to maintain that. And anyway, what started the story I wanted to tell, one of the things that really tickled me, the store was unbelievable. I should have kept a journal and written a book. Almost every day something would happen that was funny or whatever, but I had forgotten that Danny didn't like anything with hair and teeth and growled. He's big, little, or indifferent. He just flat didn't like dogs. But anyway, in the late 60s, recreational drugs were just becoming popular, and if you had guns and drugs, it was a pretty ripe plum for somebody to try to pick. after the second attempt, break-in attempt, one morning, about a couple days later, and I said, you know, I've been thinking that I think I'll maybe build a kennel out and back and kick a hole through that brick wall and put a flapper door on it. And I had a friend that raised guard dogs, and get me a Doberman, and we'll put him in the basement in the daytime, and at night let him up in the store, and next morning put him back down. And, and he thought for a minute and said, well, you know, that sounded a pretty good idea. But he better be a smart son of a bitch, because he's going to be filling the prescriptions. And so that never materialized, obviously. But, you know, when I think back, Danny, it's almost unbelievable. I cannot remember you or I in 50-some-odd years ever having a bad word or harshness or an argument or anything. It was always a discussion, and it got done, and it was an awful lot of fun. I had a gun shop in Indianapolis. I moved it over in the basement of the gun store. Of course, we sold guns upstairs, and that was my department. And that's where the guns came in. We sold ammo and hunting and fishing licenses and stuff, and cigarettes and booze and other decadent things. But anyway, at one time, back in those days, McLean County was ranked right up with the Dakotas as far as pheasant hunting. It was unbelievable, the number of birds that we had, and people would come in there by the hundreds to hunt on opening weekend for pheasants. And but anyway, I just wanted to tell you, Bud, that I couldn't be more proud of you if you were my own son. And back in those days, in the early days, a lot of people thought you were. And your family was just such a bright spot in our family. Your mother taught our girls, and your dad and I were friends, and all your aunts and uncles, and they just accepted us into the fold, and we got invited to all the parties and everything. It was just like we lived there all the time, and that was really neat for an outsider to be accepted that way, and it was nice. But anyway, we just wanted to tell you, Bud, we love you, and we hope you nothing but the best, and you have fun and stay safe. And like our good friend Harry Pick always said, one day at a time. And I'll catch you later, Bud. And adios, amigo.